Well, hello. Fancy meeting you here. Frantz Kantor here, cartoonist, illustrator, pencil pusher. There's my pencil I push around. And that's me. And today we're going to do, I've just done a little thumbnail. Having a lot of trouble with the strobing of the light, the sequencing, because I think it's a reflection of the white paper. But basically what we're going to do today is we're going to do Julia Gillard. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce my co-anchor here in the newsroom
it's
in the BBC.
It's Jim Bridges, and he's pushing me around just as much as his pencil. I'm the one of the people who set up the Australian Cartoon Museum here down in Dockland, Melbourne.
Right.
On this sunny but cold day.
Yes, so it's typical Melbourne weather.
And we're a bit late because the police
miserable.
held me up because there's some sort of happening down there at Dockland, so we all have to go around the long way.
All right, so what, someone's...
I don't know what's happening.
All right, someone's done a runner. Okay, so we're drawing Julia Gillard. So Julia Gillard was our one and only female PM a few years ago, and she copped a lot of flack. You know, more than she deserved. A lot of people are saying, well... It
was a very ugly time in Australian politics.
Yeah, a lot of misogyny. And everybody thought misogyny had gone, it sort of disappeared with the old folks. But no, it came back with a vengeance. And she suffered for it as a result. In many ways, like you look at the current situation with, Aboriginal deaths in custody and I can't remember the Black Lives Matter movement all over the world now is because we thought that racism and all of this prejudice was over. We thought it was gone, but no, it's there, and there are misogynists in our midst, and there are racists in our midst. And it's up to us, I guess, to sort of root them out and kick them up the arse. So Julia Gillard, there was I've never drawn Julia before, so we're going to have an experience. Now I might get her wrong, I might get her right.
You're not going to give her the Queen. You're not going to give her the Queen Elizabeth collar.
I didn't even think of that. We'll talk about that as we go. But I'm just trying to get a handle on some shapes, because she's got a beautiful nose. It's a lovely shaped nose, and she's got quite interesting features which we can talk about. One of her major feature, of course, is her beautiful red hair. That's why Mark Knight sort of created this
Elizabeth
I, Queen Bess analogy. So I've taken the liberty of taking the thumbnail and transposing it to, just drawing it freehand, not tracing it or anything, just onto this toned paper. Today I thought, in her honour of her Royal Highness with her red hair, Queen Bess, I thought we might use, I've got a different pencil here, it's a darker red. This is called Tuscan Red, so that'll be nice. I've also got terracotta. These two are soft pencils, these are Prismacolors. So, if you've been tuned in before, you know that the Prismacolors are soft pencils. They're very expensive and they tend to break. We've also got backups. We've got polychromo, of course, for the black, because I use a lot of black. That's a harder pencil. And we've also got another Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer, named after the artist Albrecht Dürer. Albert Dürer.
He never used colour pencils.
Alberto Dürer.
He never used colour pencils.
He did. Yes, he did.
I thought he used colour paper.
He used both.
Okay.
So, let's try to get in. Because this is slightly darker than the normal grey paper, I might need some help from the Tuscan Red. So we'll try and progress. Also, you'll notice there's a bit of shine already happening on the paper from the pencil, because this is like cover paper. So hopefully it won't create too much of an issue. So let's try to get involved. Let's try to get in. into the drawing. Very interesting. Would you like to talk about Julia as I try to get ahead?
Well, the lights, obviously, the lights. Do you want to talk about where the light's coming from?
I've got all kinds of lights here.
No, but in the photo, not those lights.
Oh, those lights.
Yeah.
All right. Well, basically, it's an illuminated picture, so it's quite bright. But there is a rough. There is a main light which is coming in from the top right. So the shadows are going to be forming on the
other side. Yeah.
The other side, corresponding to that, right? So the shadows would be down here. Gave her a little Hitler mustache almost. So what else? The area that we need to concentrate on is the mask zone, this T-zone, the eyes, the nose and the mouth. That's where we need to focus on. The rest of it, I've just arbitrarily created an impression. Now, these are done in impression. I'm not being unduly mean. I'm just finding shapes and just expanding it. You know, I'm not making it intentionally masculine or.
I mean, look at your nose in that. Your nose is not that bad, you know.
Yeah, and I also have the ventriloquist dummy lines. But the her face is really well defined, very beautiful and soft. We'll talk more about the individual lines around her features. But the recognition factor is the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Everything else just looks. You could treat them as more or less like symbols. So that's where we're going to focus our attention, and let's go forward. Let's push on, shall we? So I was really happy when she came into the prime ministership in a sort of a typically Australian fashion by knifing the former prime minister in the back, which seems to be. For a long time, I think maybe even up until recent times, I don't know if they've changed the rules, but it seems to be quite a thing to do. It's a respectable fashion for becoming prime minister, and
like Jacinta, the New Zealand prime minister, she was elected unopposed to the Labor leadership.
Yeah. This is after she became prime minister.
No, before.
Oh, okay.
Before.
How do you do that?
Isn't
the prime minister or
No. She was elected. Like they didn't have to fight over who was going to be the prime minister when Rudd went.
Right. Wasn't there a spill or something like they had?
Yeah. Rudd went, and then she was.
So one didn't preclude the other.
No, well, she was the vice. Like she was the second in command of the Labor Party at the time. So she just, so they didn't. No one stepped forward to take it over off her.
Yeah.
Right, and the same thing happened to Jacinta Ardern.
Right. So. Explain that notion. It's sort of like I'm getting the impression they became prime minister by
no
accident almost.
Well, no. They became leaders of their party
unopposed.
Unopposed is what I'm saying.
And the leader of the party is automatically
it's just that she
prime minister in the end.
No, if they get elected, like for instance, Jacinta, she got elected. After that, after she was elected...
By her party? Or by the public?
By the public.
Right.
Whereas I think... I'm not quite sure you got me going now. I think Rudd actually chucked it in while he was in power, so she got the job. But then she, when they had the election, it was a hung parliament. And the three independents went on her side, and so she soldiered on, and then she copped all that flack, especially off Mr. Abbott.
Yeah.
And she gave that famous misogyny speech that went all around the world.
I will not be lectured to by you.
Yeah.
So she didn't
Actually, it went
accuse
all around
him of being a misogynist. She just left it.
No, she certainly did. She certainly did.
But not in that speech.
That speech went on for 15 minutes.
Oh, really? I didn't catch the end of it. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. She. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't win any friends that day. I must say.
Well, I don't know about that. He's just been.
And he has a very bad.
He's just got an Australian gong from the Queen.
When today?
No, Australia. On the Queen's birthday last Sunday.
Oh, well, what's a gong?
A gong is when it's.
We're not amused. What's a gong?
No, you don't know what a gong is.
No. What is that?
Well,
Boing,
Order of Australia.
Boing.
Got the Order of Australia or something like that.
All right. Is that more or less?
And he got it for all the good work he did with Aboriginals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. But not as Prime Minister. You can get a gong for that.
No, you don't get it for that. No. Although some people do.
Yeah, but he won't.
Yeah, well, she was born in 1961.
Yeah.
Julia Eileen Gillard. And you know where she was born?
South Australia?
No, in Wales.
Wales. And not even New South. Old North.
Old Wales.
Old North Wales.
Not New South, but Old Wales.
Old North Wales.
And, yes, someone drew her as a miner.
Oh.
Because, Welsh miners, and they sing underground.
I guess. How green was my valley?
Yeah. So she's born and her family migrated to Adelaide because she had some chronic problem with her breathing, and the doctor suggested they shifted to a warmer climate.
Right.
So they came to Adelaide.
That's very.
They went to Adelaide.
That's a very antique concept, isn't it? Moving to the warmer climate because of health.
Well, anyway, she went to the University of Adelaide, but she switched to the University of Melbourne in 1982, where she graduated with a Bachelor of Laws and a Bachelor of Arts. And then she worked with the Australian Union of Students during the time in uni.
Yeah.
And she was the Australian Union of Students president.
Yep.
For a year, from 83 to 84.
Wow.
And then when she left uni, she got a job with the law firm Slater and Gordon. That's in 87. And she became a partner in 1990 with that company. And she specialised in industrial law.
Yep.
But then she left in 6 years later to become Chief of Staff to John Brumby, who was the leader of the Labor Party in Victoria.
Yep. I remember him.
Yeah. And 2 years later, she was elected to the House of Representatives at the 1998 federal election.
Yep.
And then following the 2001 election, of which Stanley Kubrick didn't apply for.
Stanley Kubrick?
Yeah, the 2001 election.
Oh, okay.
She was elected to the shadow cabinet when Kevin Rudd was elected as the leader.
Yep.
So she was elected. She was elected as his deputy, as Kevin Rudd's deputy, unopposed.
Right.
And then, upon Labor's victory at the 2007 election, she became the first female Deputy Prime Minister of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And she was Minister for Education, Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations, and Minister for Social Inclusion. And I think at one stage when she was the Minister for Education, I think Tony Abbott was the Minister for Education too, and they used to... The cartoonists
compare notes.
People used to put them together as, boy-girl relationship, school kids, you know.
Right.
Have them walking down the street, him holding her bags and all that sort of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, the early days.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because they're medicine for education, you turn them into school kids and you make a
Yeah, well, they've got
a boy school kid and a girl school kid.
Yeah.
So often you rely on, like, before you actually know people very well, you know, in politics, because they sort of come up and all of a sudden.
Well, it depends. Like
you
Peter
use
Nicholson.
Tropes and
Peter Nicholson.
Symbols.
He used to have politicians as naughty kids.
Yeah.
Playing, jumping up and down on the tables and all that sort of stuff at meetings, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas Bill Leake would have them as he was very critical of them. He'd have them as like the supreme cynical beings, you know.
What's that mean? Like,
well, he would have them
Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars or something.
Well, I don't know. They'd be dosed in corruption and cynicism and money in their pockets and all that sort of stuff, you know. Hands in the cookie jar, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So any small incident of corruption or favoritism or something like that will just sort of, you know, give you a cartoonist something to define them with visually.
Well, everybody wants the hook, don't they? They look for the hook to hang it on, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So in 2010, Rudd lost the support of his party and resigned.
Mm.
And so Gillard was elected unopposed as his replacement, thus becoming the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And then the subsequent 2010 election saw the first hung parliament since 1940, and she was able to get 3 independents and a Green MP on her side.
Right.
But then 3 years later, she lost the leadership of the Labor Party back to Rudd, and her resignation as Prime Minister took effect the following day. And she retired from politics before the impending election.
Mm.
And since her election, she's become an honorary visiting professor at the University of Adelaide. Mm. She now lives in Adelaide. She used to live in Altona.
All right.
Which was a western suburbs of Melbourne.
Yeah.
Near the beach, but, you know, they have oil refineries and stuff like that there.
Yes.
And very few people have actually been there. And, of course, it was just a simple house. And because she didn't... Well, we'll talk about that later.
So, being...
So, like, for instance, when she sold her house to go to Adelaide, people all started walking through her house because it was the Prime Minister's house, and they were just amazed just how simple and how basic the house was. It wasn't special. And then even after she was the Prime Minister, they got all this criticism about how she lived in a basic house. You know, that's one of the criticisms of her. Even after
well, it's interesting because the criticisms that she copped were really unfair.
Yeah.
And excessive and manic. There was a lot of anger.
Terrible stuff.
You know, there was a placard that I don't know who the person was.
What, ditch the
witch and things like that.
Yeah, well, you know? Actually, she mentions that in her misogyny speech.
Mm. So this is really unprecedented hatred of women.
Oh, yeah.
And it came out in spades, like you would not believe. And really, you know, a lot of people were shocked by how vicious these people that lived under the floorboards were when they came out into the sunlight, you know.
Yeah.
Who the hell were these assholes? They, you know, politics aside, you know, whether you vote left or right doesn't matter, but the sort of viciousness
well, I mean,
was shocking.
She copped it because she wasn't married.
Yeah, right? But she copped it for being a woman, no matter
yeah,
what.
I know, but she copped it because she wasn't married. She didn't cook.
Mm.
The only the only preparation for a meal was to order something in, and because she didn't cook and because she wasn't married and didn't have children, all that worked against her.
But that's more of a religious rite.
No. Well, yes,
it's not really what happened to her.
And then Woman's Weekly decided to put her on the cover, and they thought, well, I'm not sure. I don't think she knits, but they got her knitting to be, like more homely alike.
I'll show you the cover.
Yeah.
Julia Gillard on dating, drugs, and life with Tim. Her most revealing interview yet. So they're turning her into a TV star, a soap star. That's what this is what they're selling.
And they complained about her haircut, and of course her boyfriend was a hairdresser. And there was all these jokes about the boyfriend, to get him a job because she had, according to half the press, that she had such a terrible hairdo that no one would give him a job and all that sort of stuff. It was just, all. And,
it's unreasonable.
And then she was criticised for her knitting or the photograph of it or something. I don't know. I just remember it was just. I mean, she couldn't take it. She copped it from both sides. I mean.
And then there was a speech where she was coached to say "moving forward" about 5,000 times.
Just say what?
Moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So there's. She had so much criticism, more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And it was just obvious. I was shocked by the level of it, and some of it was incredibly.
At the time I was cutting out
personal and vicious and nasty.
I was cutting out all these caricatures of politicians.
Yeah.
And I would cut out the article that came with, the caricatures and
put
photos
it in context,
and I'd put it in their file. And I just couldn't believe what people were saying about it. The shock jocks.
Yeah.
Everyone was just saying really vile and nasty. They attacked her father.
Yeah.
Her father died. They attacked him. All sorts of stuff. It was just unprecedented, and it went on and on and on.
Yep.
Anyway, it was a pretty terrible time in Australian politics, and.
So that was like...
the rest of the world was watching, because that speech he gave...
It's our Trump moment in time, I think,
well, that
in Australian politics.
Speech that she gave
Vicious.
Went around the world virtually.
Yeah.
And a lot of women championed it, and of course it was torn to pieces by her enemies. And even when she was deposed by Rudd again, because they felt she wouldn't win the election, so they gave it to him again.
Which was exactly what the haters wanted. They didn't want her to stand up against her.
I heard women saying, "Thank God she's gone because we need a man in charge."
Why would they say that?
I don't know.
This is the patriarchy.
Hearing all this stuff, from women, I didn't.
I feel the opposite.
I know, but this is some of the stuff that I heard in my... I couldn't believe what... I mean, she's gone, she's left, and now they're still getting into her, And she had red hair, and they pillaged her about it,
Well, and that I understand, but the
and
rest...
of course, I mean, cartoonists have used all sorts of tropes. And, for instance, she was bullied at a anti-racist demo outside of Parliament, and one of her security people had to sort of grab her and pull her away from getting jostled, and she lost her shoe.
Yeah.
So a lot of cartoonists had her...
Cinderella.
Well, but they had her drawing... It didn't matter what, from that point on, she only had one shoe on.
Oh, right.
And of course, they got stuck into about her backside, and she had they drew with a huge backside. And
someone mentioned
she does have a prominent nose, but they drew it as Pinocchio because, but she's not the only one who copped that off cartoonists because, if you tell a Porky, they give you Pinocchio nose,
Yeah, no, I'm doing this because she's got her nose is quite strong and prominent. I like that.
Yeah.
So, I was really proud when we had our first female Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And, I felt like changing my politics just because of that. And I was proud because I've got 3 daughters. And, I think we need more women in power and women in business as exemplars of what can happen.
Yeah,
what can come of this... the end of misogyny.
She stood up to it all. She stood up to it all, and every day she'd cop it. So she's very strong.
Yes, you can tell she's strong.
And when she left, she said that her legacy. Someone asked her what's her legacy, and she said, "Well, when the next
female
woman and the next one after her and the next one after her gets the top job."
Yeah.
What she went through will have made it easier for all of those women.
Yeah,
that's what she said.
That would keep her going. I think that would have been an inspirational concept. Why should she take so much flack? Why don't she just pack it in? Well, the reason is because if you don't do this, this will happen again in 5, 10, 15 years time, 20 years time, when there is another female at the helm. Because a lot of this inbred toothless behaviour, the Neanderthals are within society, and the Neanderthals are having children, and they're training their Neanderthal children to be Neanderthals, and and that's it. Am I being a little bit unkind?
Well, for someone who's nearly changed his politics from Hanna-Barbera to Walt Disney.
I don't like politics as a rule. I really dislike the notion of having to be loyal to a team or being loyal to.
Well, in your job, I
think it depends on circumstances. I'm one of those swinging voters that annoys people.
In your job, when you're doing political caricatures.
I never hated any politician.
No, but were you told by your art director to get stuck into this particular politician?
No.
It was just left up to you, was it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I mean, you look at the story. If you're illustrating a story, I didn't do political cartoons on my own. They're always reflecting the story. But occasionally you would take a contrary view, and people like Piers Ackerman would actually congratulate it because it gave the article a little bit more, character, flavour, or whatever. I don't know. Makes people. If the cartoon or the illustration is ambiguous, then it can kind of stand for both sides of an argument.
Yes. But also, people can
make up. People should make their own decision.
Yeah, but they can also read the cartoon wrong, and
that
people
can
are
happen.
accused of being racist and sexist when they're not necessarily.
That's true.
Yes, I must admit I was proud. I felt that pride.
Yeah, you do. As a father of girls, you feel that pride. I mean, why not? I want my daughter to be Prime Minister. And my God, if I was there and they bullied her, like they did, I wish I was there.
Yeah. Anyway, after she
unbelievable.
After she retired from politics, she ended up on the Beyond Blue board, which is about depression.
Yeah. And
that was in 2014. It's been as chair since 2017.
Yep.
And she served as the chairwoman of the Global Partnership for Education since February 2014. I think that's an international thing. I think that's got to do with UNESCO or something. And she's also an honorary fellow at the, wait for it, the Aberystwyth University, in which I think is in Wales, where she was originally born.
Right. So do you have to say, what did you call it? Aberystwyth. Give me a look at the word. Aberystwyth.
Well,
go.
That's better than mine, but...
Aberystwyth, go.
Yeah.
So
I think it's Welsh because it's only got one W in it and one Y. No, two Y's. Yeah. Yeah. And of course they had actually in the museum we've got one of them. They brought out these dog toys.
Of Abbott and Gillard.
And Gillard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were drawn as she was Daffy Duck and he was Elmer Fudd, always trying to shoot her and all that stuff, you know.
All right. Making light of a sinister
it got. I mean,
maybe?
I don't know. I just think that they were running out of. I have a feeling that the cartoonists were embarrassed and they probably tried to soften
trying to lighten the atmosphere
because,
a little bit.
Yeah, it was pretty
nasty.
Yeah, very nasty time.
So, I felt very ashamed of the situation, of what was going on, and what it portended. You know, what was the outcome? What was the outcome of this?
Well, she went to America and she spoke at the Congress, and apparently she was received. I mean, every so often they get somebody of note.
Yeah.
To talk to the whole Congress, the whole, you know.
Yeah.
And she was received incredibly well, apparently.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about your geology of the face with her face?
She has very striking features. It's not sort of a face that you forget easily. It's very.
No, that's true. But about the lines in her face. And what they represent.
Well, there's a lot of hard work in her face. There's a lot of, puffiness in her eyes and things, which come from really late night, working late into the night. So she's got she has a very even temper. I think there's not a lot of conflicts going on, so she's very sure of herself. There's no lines that crisscross and conflict, you know. So there's a lot of good lines. There's a lot of good. I don't know if you can you call lines good lines? Oh, that's I like this. That's
slanging matches.
Who did that? Do you know? Oh, Berman's. No?
Yeah, Bowman.
Yeah. So Redhead is an institution. So Redhead matches. She's a famous redhead, which is good. Stand up and be counted.
This uses olive oil.
Yeah.
Fighting Popeye. And
that's actually quite clever.
See, they're both fighting over. They're both fighting over the
ship Australia.
Yeah.
So olive oil and Popeye. That's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
Because it shows his, belligerent nature, I guess, or he was accused of. Let's not sort of make, too much out of the cartoons. But the idea was that he was accused of being a misogynist, and that's part of the speech, I guess. But I am interested in the fact that we've had a female Prime Minister, and I was looking forward to, it happening again, because I kind of like the idea. I think we've got a long way to go, and, the faster we get there, the better.
Well, but the trouble is,
I like all these. I like racists getting outed and sexist people getting outed, I like it when they come out and they wave stamp their fists and do all this, because then you know that they're Neanderthals, that they're not,
Well, the veneer of polite society gets its lid ripped off, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I kind of like that, because it's revealing the cockroaches in the kitchen. So we need to root out the cockroaches and stop the cockroaches from taking over the kitchen.
But how many women who were interested in politics would go into politics after they saw what happened to her?
Well, you'd have to be a strong woman like her.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing.
Well,
that's what you'd need.
The argument was always that
we need strong women in politics.
There's a lot of strong women. I mean, there's a lot of women in
business.
Is it Swedish and Norway at the moment? There's sort of a lot of young women who are actually taken over the reins. But I mean, the old argument was that if a woman to get to the top job, she's got to be tougher than the men. And so you end up with a Maggie Thatcher who was, my God.
Well, it gets...
The damage that woman did.
Here you go, yeah.
The damage that woman did to England.
Yeah. But here you go, what was I going to say? The idea of women being an underculture, women being a subculture, or what's the word I'm looking for? Minority.
Yeah.
Yeah? Which is ridiculous. A minority that's probably 60% of the population.
Yeah.
How is that a minority?
Yeah.
And also the fact that, when you talk to black people, when you describe black people or any ethnic group as a minority, you're actually demeaning their position in society by using terms like that, because it's kind of like a dismissive envelope that gathers everybody up and puts them away in the dark, away from the spotlight. So I like the fact that women and all kinds of people from all walks of life can step up and become Prime Minister. I think that is a saving grace for the country. If we don't have that, I don't think you've got much of a country. I think you've got like a pretense. You've just got a space that's waiting for a country to come.
Well, you need the balance. You need the male and the female balance. You need the you need the hard nose and the sensitive and the practical. All these things,
It's you can say all you like about it's left versus right. It's not. It's more than left versus right. This was particularly nasty.
Yeah.
And it showed us that there are these cockroaches, these Neanderthals that are in our midst, and they're people that they're family members.
I don't read as much as
neighbours or friends or whatever.
Yeah.
And these people are not what they pretend, not what you thought they were. They're not nice people. So it's good to have them outed in a way so that we can sort of see who our true friends are, or who, the intelligent people are, so that we can move forward without them.
I mean, that's what...
Turn the lights on. Watch the cockroaches scatter.
Yeah, but politicians are asked all sorts of things, and of course that
they're opportunistic, aren't they?
They have to fudge. They have to fudge their answers.
Yeah.
But when situations like this happen, I mean, it is all right to as you said, these people to be outed, but at the same time, it's a terrible time. It's I felt terrible at the time.
I feel ashamed.
Yeah.
Why?
Day after day after day. What are they going to do next?
And to have a politician jump on the bandwagon, was worse. That was worse. It's like, somebody voting for the Nazi Party. You know, it's like you wouldn't do it, but
I mean,
a politician saying, you know what, Adolf Hitler, he's not such a bad guy. That's what it's like. It's as bad as that. And in a way, like you've got the protests against inequality at the moment, and then you've got politicians saying, "Oh, look, you'll all be sorry, when we get the second wave," things like that. But they're forgetting the issue here is so much more important than anything else. And it's really, how does it in 2020, the 21st century, how is this situation allowed to persist? This racist quality in people, how is it allowed to persist? Where does it come from? Why are the Neanderthals allowed to breathe? Can't we get rid of this hatred once and for all? Got a lot of shine happening on here. Not sure if this is going to... Why is that happening?
Just push on. You're nearly finished. Actually, you've made a good decision about using this colour paper because of her hair. You've done well there.
Yes.
It actually looks red.
Maybe it's the lighting or something. I don't know.
I think it's this. Really do.
You think it's the other spotlight? Sorry, we're just trying to get the lighting right on the paper because it seems to be frosting. It's like I'm making a cake.
You know a bit about frosting, don't you?
Yeah.
His daughter makes cakes, and he does. Frantz does the frosting and the drawings and the faces and things on the cakes. Yeah, do you remember the television series they had about her?
Yeah.
It was Made Up.
Yeah. Yeah.
A comedy show.
Yeah, interesting. You've got a lot more subtlety in the drawing that is not coming through with the film, unfortunately. We'll see what we can do. It's a shame.
It's very contrasted, isn't it? Especially on...
Could be the monitor.
Let's hope it is. Let's hope it is.
So nothing much I can do, unfortunately. We may have to... we'll see what happens with the actual film. What I'm using here is a Posca on my other light lamp. Didn't sort of... Is that... did I move it too much? Where am I going with this? I can't leave. I can't. I've got to. I should start over there. Let's start again.
You want to use that?
Well, I think it. No, I don't want to sort of. If I lay anything over it, it'll definitely smudge. So we'll just persist. I've moved everything around. The situation with the lights have changed a little bit. So we've got teething problems, which we're shooting simultaneously on a camera and on my phone because of Facebook and YouTube have different formats, different shapes. Anyway, that's a technical reason, but I think what we've got here is this paper. I didn't realise, but the pencil on the paper goes glossy, and that creates a certain undesirable effect with shine.
We won't know until you see what it looks like on the computer as opposed to the television screen. But at the same time, if it is a bit negative, at least you've learned that. You've learned the process that be careful of negativity. No, be careful of when you're trying new systems. You have to do a bit of experiment first, maybe.
But for once I can see, so there's no reflection going in my eyes. Maybe it's something to do with the angle of the lights. I think that's probably what it is. So we'll fix it up for next time.
Yeah, the hair, you've done a good job on the hair because it does look red.
So, any last minute information or no?
Well, I hope she. I hope she comes back into Australian life. Personally,
and not on the Women's Weekly cover.
Well, I don't know. The way the world's going, we probably won't have a Women's Weekly or any sort of magazine. It's everything's digital. All the suburban and country papers are just about to shut down and go digital.
Yeah. Yeah, there's big changes afoot, for sure. The age of disruption, same as radio, TV, print.
The next woman who comes, I mean, there's some very strong women in the Labor Party. You never know. If Australia does get a new female leader in the next 10 years, it doesn't matter what the political persuasion, I'm pretty sure she's going to come back into some sort of situation with the Australian public.
It did mean a lot. It meant a lot to me, and apart from the politics, I'm not interested in the politics at the end of the day. I'm only interested in the people. So the loyalty to a system that doesn't serve you.
They said she was weak and she was always passing the buck and sending things back to committees to sort things out. But she survived. She survived all that terrible behaviour.
Yeah.
So, that's the proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're getting attacked because of your policies, well, you can tough them out. But if people are getting attacked for their policies plus their private stuff, most people just can't take that double whammy. They can't. And she did.
Yeah, she had a spine. She had a backbone. So, good on her. Wow, there's a lot of reflection in there. I'm going to try to tilt this up. I realise anger of people, but that's a lot softer.
Yeah.
Than I quite like this. So this is let's put this there. Kind of give it a little bit of help. This is Julia Gillard. And this is Frantz Kantor, and I'm here with
Jim Bridges.
And we'll catch you
on the flip side.
On the flip side. I hope there'll be better light on the flip side. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.